Dr. Harris had seen his fair share of corpses, but never one that moved on its own. Dr. Michael Harris had worked in the city morgue for 12 years, and in that time, he'd seen it all. Bodies torn apart by machinery, gunshot victims with gaping holes where their faces should be, corpses bloated from weeks of decomposition. But this was different. The man on the table was bone white, his skin stretched over his skeleton like wax paper. There wasn't a single wound, not a single mark. Yet, when Harris cut into the chest cavity, something was missing. All the blood was gone. His assistant, Jonah, whistled low. Jesus, did someone wring him out like a sponge? Harris frowned. There's no sign of exsanguination. No punctures. No internal bleeding. It's like it was never there. And then something moved. At first, he thought it was just his eyes playing tricks. A shadow under the skin. But when he leaned closer, the dead man's veins shifted. Not in a post-mortem twitch. Not from rigor mortis. They writhed, curling like worms under the flesh. Jonah took a step back. Did you see that? Harris didn't answer. His hand shook as he reached for his scalpel. He pressed the tip against one of the moving veins and sliced. It didn't bleed. Instead, the vein curled toward him, as if it were aware. And then, with a sickening snap, it lunged. The black tendril wrapped around his wrist like a living thing, burrowing into his skin faster than he could react. He screamed, dropping the scalpel, trying to rip it free, but it was too late. It was inside him now. Jonah backed away, horrified. Oh my God, Mike, your arm. Harris looked down. His veins were moving, spreading, wriggling under his skin like parasites. His vision blurred. A voice, not his own, whispered inside his skull. You're just a vessel, just like him. He staggered back, knocking over a tray of instruments. His breath came in gasps. The dead man on the table twitched, his mouth stretching into something like a smile. And then, his eyes opened. A dry, rattling whisper filled the room. You're next. Darkness rushed in, swallowing Harris whole. The last thing he saw was his own veins slithering toward his throat. The morgue was silent when Jonah finally crept forward. Dr. Harris lay sprawled on the floor, unmoving. But as Jonah turned to run, he heard it. A soft, wet squirming sound. And then, Harris's body shifted. His fingers twitched. His lips peeled back into a smile. No, Jonah whispered, because now his veins were moving too.